Welcome to our Nakuona Catch Up 2020. This evening we are delighted to welcome Denyce Blackman, all the way from Barbados, to our monthly Nakuona Catch Up, which is actually our final one for this year, 2020. But it being the final one, not, that's fine, because we know you are bringing us to the close of to say unusual year, but also it's one of the last catch up we're having of the year. So hopefully it will take us into the new year, and we're like, yeah. So you're in a way starting us off for the new year. Before we start, we're going to have some housekeeping rules. The Zoom will be recorded and uploaded onto our Nakuona website for all those who are unable to attend the event today, but also for documentation of our Nakuona Catch Up.
Yes, and the visual and the audio has been muted for this part of the session due to limiting any technical disruptions while our guest Denyce is speaking. But there will be an opportunity after for questions and sharing. However, if you do have any questions during this time, please feel free to type them in by using the chat button below.
Yeah. Our Nakuona Code of Conduct. We aim to maintain a safe and positive space where we encourage openness with respect to others at all time. Nakuona. Well, 2020, gosh, has been an unprecedented year filled with uncertainties and challenging situations in so many ways and on so many levels. So what we will do, we'll have a 30-second silence in remembrance of all those who have passed, our ancestors, our family and friends, even the unknown to us. Okay. So I'd like to read this poem. It's called "I Am Precious," and it's called Genuine Gems for the Soul, and it's by Opal Murray. And I saw it today, and I thought, well, yeah, this is the one I need to read today. My body is the vessel that houses my mind, soul, and spirit. My mind communicates with my soul. My soul is the bridge that connects with my spirit. When I cross this bridge, I become one with the Great Spirit, Brahma, Jah, Yahweh, Jehovah, God, goddesses, Isis, Allah, and all. Opal Murray. Denyce, like I said, welcome. It's really lovely to see you. I know that we have seen you a few times during the year. So to be on our catch up, this is your time. Since taking part in the Nakuona event back in February this year, as a guest speaker, what are your reflections on that event? What would you say, looking back at that particular event?
Well, that event, it still remains, in my reflection, one of the high points of my year. Wow. Having started the year like that. And that has nothing to do with the fact that the year has been so topsy-turvy. Mm-hmm. But I think even all that considered, it just felt like, and I remember saying this at the time, it just felt like it's the best way you could have started the year, in a room with that energy. Everybody felt like they were a family there in the room. I left feeling inspired. I left feeling motivated. I just left feeling part of a very potent and lively community. So it kind of just, I think it kind of accelerated like a mental shift for me at the start of the year. I think that was probably one of the best events that I've attended
My gosh.
in my recent memory. And that's not me being hyperbolic. I really do really commend you guys again for that event and the energy that you brought to that space that night. It was every time I think back on that, I feel like if only we could have that same event again at the start of 2021 to kind of balance people out again. We left that event and we took a licking. We took a licking for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
But that is definitely, it was very very uplifting. And
what would you say stood out for you in the event, for those who weren't there or those who were watching and remember? Which was the highlight for you? What stood out for you?
What stood out to me was after everybody had shared everybody that you invited, the guests and the speakers, to share their experiences, and then we realized that everybody was from very different fields, different walks of life, different faiths, but then at the end there was somebody who was singing on stage. Was it? I think it was Judith singing, actually.
Judith,
yes.
And everybody just got up and started to dance and started to sing. And the Reverend, I remember, she got up and she started to dance. And I just remember feeling at that point so emotional that I felt like I could cry. Just because it was so lovely to see it, like that sharing. And then often when you're in space and you're surrounded by people from, let's say, different backgrounds, different races, different whatever, different communities, that you don't feel a part of that community, there's kind of like a reservation. But because it was like all Black people, all Black women, all Black women that support each other, it felt like a family reunion of sorts. So a lot of moments that night, including the Reverend's actual address. I just felt like this is beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, we thank you for accepting our invitation as a guest speaker, to take part, and as you know, at that time, that was our very first event, and putting that on. And so we give thanks a million times over, zillion times over, that it brought what it brought to what we needed. It added something in our lives.
Yes.
I can honestly say that. And you were part of that. So
special memories.
I'm honored. I'm very, very honored. Very honored for that.
We wanted to continue with that by working with the nominees and yourselves, the guest speakers, to put on workshops over the year. Then Mr. COVID stepped in. I shouldn't say Mr. COVID stepped in, and then kind of just mash up everything, changed everything, sent everything in a different direction. So hence why we, I think it was Judith came up with this idea. Nakuona Catch Up on Zoom. So we've been having them, every month, and so this is why we can keep in touch with everyone. So talking about COVID, the industry you work in has been hit by this pandemic in so many ways, not least due to the lockdown. And I know that you're away at the moment. And I guess for you and your colleagues, the options of working or how you have worked has presented itself in new ways, in different ways. How would you, look back on that? How has it affected you in any way?
What it has done, I mean, it certainly shows that everything is about balance in a good way and bad. So if something is affecting you over here, something on this end has to balance it out. sometimes what balances it out is this very negative, restrictive thing. But then sometimes what balances it out is finding a way through it and to kind of counter react to it. So we had our, I mean, so I'm in the cinema exhibition industry with my community cinema, and that's what's relevant to this talk today. So the Caribbean pop-up cinema, which pops up, well, previously was popping up at different places, showing Caribbean films to UK audiences mostly, which these UK audience usually tended to be like first generation or second generation Caribbean people, but UK audiences still. So within that industry, of course, all that came to a definite pause for two reasons. One, because I myself, when COVID hit, decided to head back home to Barbados to kind of wait for it to die down. But then also, even if I had stayed, the cinema industry is in a state at the moment. So cinemas were kind of the first things to close. I think at some point they were trying to mitigate the situation by having, people sit this far apart in the cinema or whatever, but that didn't last very long. And I guess as the restrictions got a bit stronger, the cinemas just closed. Some have closed down. I think just the other day, Electric Cinema sent all of its employees home. Mockingbird has been closed for a long time now. And so those are the more independent, if you can consider it that, type cinemas. But then, yeah, the larger ones too, they're struggling. So with the community cinemas, even worse because, it's even more difficult to do that and have a team that could follow all guidelines and, that could invest in proper PPE and signage, and like it's very, very difficult for a small community cinema that doesn't have that many resources and often has a extremely small team, a micro team. So that was just done. So the way that balanced itself was the way that many things have now, and that is trying to do it online. So what I've done this year, a lot of the work has been collaborative. So I think it was in maybe April, May, I collaborated with two other community cinemas who were experiencing probably the exact same thing in other parts of the UK. And that is No Planet B Film Club that is based in London. That focuses mainly on environmental films. And then the second one was Sea Film, based in Scarborough, that focuses on films also to do with the sea. So we kind of put our heads together, like, okay, how can we combine my Caribbean films, one other person's sea and ocean films, and the other person's environmental films? So we came up with this project called Waves, based on the idea that, the Caribbean is surrounded by water. I mean, all of us, if we zoom out enough, we're surrounded by water. And so with this project Waves, we screened virtually some films that related in some way to the sea, to the ocean, to the waves. And then we also created a global community video, and that is kind of based on the double entendre of waves also being, or the ambiguity of waves also being like waving at each other from afar as we kind of manage the situation. So we created a community video where people from all around the world sent in their videos of water and the sea, the ocean when they were on vacation, the river down the road from their house, a waterfall they visited, like a lake. So they all sent in videos of them in the water, their dogs playing in the water, anything related to water, the sea, ocean, anything that brings us together, really, because that's what the sea does, it connects us all.
Yes,
and we edited our own video with those videos they sent us. So everybody that sent it in, and this is from like Greece, the Caribbean, obviously, Barbados, Antigua, Jamaica, Trinidad. And did we get any from India? No. I can't remember. But people from all over sent in their videos from all the places they've been. So we did get some people from India submitting. We got a lot of UK, US. We got some Asia. We got Brazil. We got people from all over. I think in the end we had about 25 different countries represented, and yeah, it was a that was our effort to kind of unite people during that time. We were hoping that we could screen that film, like even just project it onto the side of a building or do something like that. Maybe we still can when it becomes a bit easier to do that. And then the third part of that project, because it was quite an ambitious project, was to create a zine, which is this online artistic magazine, and people sent in, again, from all over the world, sent in their poems and thoughts and reflections and photos and illustrations that represented waves, their musings on how they felt at this time. So that was that. Like I said, some good sometimes can come from being off balance when you try to regain that balance. And this was probably one of the most ambitious um, cinema projects I've ever worked on. Um, so it's been that was quite a edifying experience. And then other collaborative events I've taken part in this year. Another was with UFP Film Club based in London. Again, another community cinema that's been struggling as I have been struggling. And we did they had the idea to do a project called Black History Month Overdrive. And this is following on from, you have Black History Month, everybody's hype about it. Everybody wants a Black film, everybody wants a Black talk, everybody wants a Black speaker, everybody wants a Black person to put together a Black panel for that month. And then when it's done, it's okay, see you next year at the same time. So they had the idea to do a series of films that highlighted Black films and Black culture beyond when the month ended for a wider audience. So I programmed some Caribbean films as well for that one, because I personally believe you should always have Caribbean or West Indian films in the mix of any UK program offering, just because how could you not when you look at the makeup of the region. And then we also did another panel discussion for another 12 Days of Christmas program that UFP and I put together as well. And this one was about the film A Girl from Mogadishu, which is actually a film that is set in Somalia about a refugee who brought up the horrors of FGM, female genital mutilation. So it might still be available now on the UFP Film Club website, but that's just some of the collaborative projects that I've been doing since then. We had a panel, interestingly enough. So they asked me to do the panel discussion for it, and I was game. Although in the back of my mind, I'm like, but it's not really a Caribbean film. Like, how is this going to be on brand? Am I stretching myself into like another realm? Is this going to get a bit tricky? But I said, no, just do it. You are a Caribbean person with a Caribbean perspective, and you're representing the cinema. So we ended up with 3 people on the panel. Me and 3 other people discussing the film, and the guy who runs UFP Film Club, Martin. As we were doing our pre-talk before the panel discussion started officially, I asked him, okay, so tell me about you guys, where you guys from? And except for one guy who had African roots, everybody had Caribbean roots.
Yeah. Wow.
Everybody on the panel had Caribbean roots. I think one was from St. Kitts, 2 were from Jamaica, I was from Barbados. The guy was from Ghana. So it was already a Black panel. But then it also became by nature a Caribbean panel as well. So it just works out like that. So yeah, I've been having a lot of interesting collaborations over this
Yeah,
time.
yeah. Yeah, and I would say that for many as well, personally speaking, especially within our community, situations change sometimes minutely, microscopically, on a huge scale. And as a people, we have to adjust and change and try keep the norm and run things and do this and that. And I would say that during the lockdown, especially with Zoom, those of us who have had a passion in maybe a hobby or something that they're interested in, but because of day-to-day living and work, profession, etc., during the lockdown down, I think people have kind of relooked at that and started to look at what matters to them. You know, of course, their work matters to them, etc. And hearing all the things that you're saying that you have gone through this year in particular, just as a summary, just tell us a little bit of where you're coming from, your background as in work in film, especially the pop-up, before we go into our pearls of wisdom with Judith. Just give us a background on where you're coming from on that.
Okay, so what led me eventually to the Caribbean pop-up cinema that I started last year?
Mm-hmm.
I came to the UK. I left a job in television and broadcast to come to the UK to study film and television at the University of Birmingham. And while I was there and doing like a lot of filmy stuff in a student context, a lot of internships and that type of thing, I eventually met Cindy from Film Birmingham and started working at Film Birmingham.
Mm-hmm.
Which is mainly a film office that facilitates production crews in the region, and it has nothing to do with actual film production. But then it at one point in time it pivoted into film exhibition, which is just film screening and showing films when Film Birmingham started its short fuse film program, which is where they screen and promote films from the West Midlands at the Mockingbird, and it was every 2 months they did that. So I was mostly in charge of finding the films, programming the films, keeping in touch with the filmmakers, dealing with the cinema, that type of thing. And it's when I was doing that that I realized that I really, really do enjoy it. Up until then, I was programming for other people. So they would have like some film festivals, some small or growing film festivals that I have volunteered with.
Mm-hmm.
And for one of them, like they wanted some films. They were wondering if I had any ideas of some films they could program. So then I got brought on to do some programming for them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's when I realized how much I love programming films.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I love watching films. I love finding good films. I love recommending films. So basically, what I do as somebody who screens films is basically telling the public, yo, I just watched this great film. I want you guys to see it.
Wow.
Yeah. So, sorry, 1 second. You could pass, Reggie, if you want. Yeah, so it came to that when Film Birmingham had the opportunity then to do the short fuse program. I just took it. After that, I realized the affinity that I had for it. But by that time, I also noticed that there were not a lot of most of the festivals or the events that I was programming for, maybe they were like Black oriented, or maybe they were like West Midlands oriented, or maybe they were like other parts of my identity at that time oriented, but none of them were Caribbean oriented. And as much as I was learning in the UK, I think everything that I was learning in the UK, I was thinking about it in terms of how can I transfer this back home? how can I, bring home into this? How can I make this feel like home? How can I make this resonate with me? So it just became a natural development for me to want to get into the Caribbean film, down that line. And luckily I did, with the help of Cinema for All, who at the moment that I thought, nah, I need to do this. I don't care how I'm going to do it. I'm going to call on the contacts I already have, and I'm just going to do this. I don't know how, but I'm going to do it. And at the moment that I decided to jump into it, Cinema for All, which is the UK, UK-wide body that helps with creating community films and supports community filmmakers, puts out a call like, "Hi, by the way, does anybody want to start a community cinema? We have some funding if anybody just happens to want to start one." So it was just everything aligning for me at that time. So totally. It came the exact week that I thought that it came, the following days after that. And that week was the deadline to put in the application. So I put in the application and it happened almost instantly. Yeah.
Again, it just takes me back to what I was saying. So even on what we might call the lockdown and all these other things coming up, other things, shoots of different things come up under the lockdown. That's what I want to,
And another thing that I'm grateful for with that, although this happened last year at the start of my Caribbean pop-up cinema journey, a year later and some, I'm now I now sit as a trustee on the board for Cinema for All.
Wow.
After an election, So it just came.
It's meant to be.
It came full circle.
The
so
the seed started the year before. Okay.
Oh, that's all
right.
Fantastic. It just seemed Caribbean pop-up cinema is such it's exciting concept, and it's great to see how you've made all these contacts and you've grown and to be on the board as well. It's fantastic.
I give thanks for that, because the Cinema for All team is so knowledgeable, and so I hope in some way that the same way that I found my footing in cinema with the support for Cinema for All, for my Caribbean pop-up cinema, I hope that in some way I could help someone else further along find their footing, in the same way. So it's exciting.
It's great. It is. Okay, so we're at this time now where we hear your pearls of wisdom, Denyce. So the floor is yours.
Okay, my pearls of wisdom. There's a lot of there's a bit of intimidation that comes with knowing that I have to share pearls of wisdom. But I saw that you guys had some things to pull from, personal insights or areas within our community or things I feel strongly about. So I'll just pull from those.
Okay.
One of the things that I have in the last few weeks, really, I wouldn't say that. In the last few weeks, it kind of came to a head, I was thinking about it more intently, but I think it's something that's been happening over a period of maybe months, was the need for a constant state of pruning.
Yes. Yeah.
Pruning things that do not fit anymore, whether it be friends, people in your life. I won't go as far as to say family, because that's not my experience, but habits, lifestyles. I went through a period here recently where I felt a bit unbalanced. And then when I sat down and thought about it, I realized that there were some things in my life that just were not bringing me joy anymore. They weren't not to say that in a way that everything and every person in my life must directly benefit me or I'm getting rid of it like in a selfish way. But after a while, I think you might just grow just apart.
Yes.
Yeah, from your own thoughts, you might be growing apart from your own thoughts, but still wanting to hold on to them. So I just, yeah, anything that kind of doesn't align to how you see yourself or how you want yourself to be, even if it's uncomfortable sometimes.
So I suppose it's part of growth as well, isn't it? There's a part of growing happening, and then you're thinking it's painful, but there's a change happening. Sounds.
Yeah, because sometimes it is comfortable to sit in your comfortable space, but that could very well lead to a type of unhappiness if 5 years after you were supposed to prune something, you're still holding on to it, and you do feel that imbalance. You're not sure why. I mean, it could be professional. It could be changing jobs after you realize that it's time for you to go. It could be changing a country, like moving country when you feel like a country isn't for you, or maybe sometimes even home isn't for you. Or maybe sometimes where you move to start this life isn't for you and you need to go back home. It could be those logistical things, or like I said, it could just be, how you, like your own paradigm, how you see the world in this sense, or people that are close to you that haven't even really done you anything. It's just that is like you said, Judith, is just a call for growth. So as I was just reflecting on this state of pruning, that I find particularly important to consider, even if you realize, nah, I'm good, I don't need to change a thing, at least give yourself the favor of considering it.
I like that, pruning.
Another thing that I was thinking about recently was children and kids. Not me having children or kids. I don't have any children or kids, by the way. Not saying that I want. But the importance of fortifying children, especially girls, with a can-do mentality. Because when I think about, well, I have 3 nieces. So since I've been back home in Barbados, like I get to see them a lot more. I spent this entire week with them, and they are so unique, so different. What they all have in common is that they look up, is how they look up to people, how they absorb what people teach or what people say or what people show. And I was having a conversation with a friend recently too, where we were talking about the difference between boys and girls and how they're raised, not what they like and don't like, but what they're taught that they should like and taught that they should not like. With girls especially, is kind of passed on that they should be a bit more demure. They should be a bit more, peaceful and calm. Don't be too, loud. Don't be too aggressive. Don't be. And then even in terms of things that they should explore, or career paths they might be interested in, is something that I think at one stage of our evolution was okay, or was accepted, but in terms of saying, well, if you're a woman, like, this is your role, and even with all of the feminist movement movements and feminist narrative coming out, I think there's still a long way to go in terms of imparting to girls and young women that, nah, if you want something, go and get it. Like, who cares if like there's already if it's an office full of men, or you think that place isn't made for you, that you pursue and you make it. So something something's starting from as small as, let's say, telling a girl, no hitting, behave yourself. You don't do that. Like, I caught myself the other day telling my niece, no hitting, Deja, don't do that. And my youngest niece is the one that's the most rambunctious. Like, she would run, she would pull, she would, like, anything she wants, she would go for it. And I caught myself the other day telling her, no, don't do that. Just, calm down, relax. But on reflection, I'm like, it's not as though when she goes into an adult, she's going to be running around slapping people and pulling stuff down.
Yeah.
I think it's just gonna that type of expression is really her saying, I'm gonna go for what I want. I'm gonna get what I want. If I don't get what I want, I'm gonna fight for it.
Yes.
And I think that's the attitude that we kind of quell in girls from a very, very young age.
Yes.
So that is, yeah.
Yes, I hear you on that. It's powerful, because you think it's the spirit of the young child, isn't it? So you might have different characters, but for you to, it's almost like dampening who they are. If they're more boisterous and they want to do this, and it's just being able to channel it in a different way. But I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, I think it will eventually be channeled. So I have to check myself sometimes. With these three girls, especially because I think it definitely translates to how the type of woman you go to be. You hear all these reports about women being paid less in the workplace, and it's not only on one end that people see their work as less deserving, but it's also that women themselves see themselves as less deserving. So they don't, they are willing to accept less because they're like, well, maybe I'm not as good.
Yes.
And they are less likely to, inquire about money. How much am I getting? Well, how much is everybody getting? The way that, I'm assuming, but reading the reports, you do read that men are more willing to negotiate and, bargain for their salary and salary increases, whereas women are just like, okay, they haven't given me as much. Maybe is there something, maybe they see something in me that's not deserving as much, whereas a man would not let you tell him that he doesn't deserve the amount that he wants. So it's that type of thing that I think is something that is ingrained, and that should be uningrained from as early as possible to many girls as possible.
Did you experience that in your when you worked as a journalist, or in your?
The thing is, I don't know. I very well may have, because I've never asked about salary. I know that there was one point where granted, the job was a great job, and up to now I think it was one of my favorite jobs. But I went there I started that job before I graduated school. I got one particular salary. Since then I graduated with my first degree at one, and I maintained the same salary. I left to go study. I came back. So by this time, it had been years afterwards, and now I had a degree, and I came back and I was working for the same salary that was my starting salary before I graduated.
Wow.
But at no point did I go into the office and say, hey, can we talk about this?
Yes.
Is it because it's my personality? Maybe. Is it because that's how I have been, because it's uncomfortable for me to talk about those things because of how I was raised? Maybe. Who knows?
Yes.
It's difficult to say what what element of it is kind of like impacting your behavior. But so I'll say maybe maybe I have been impacted by that. I do know that I feel really uncomfortable talking about money when it comes to work and the workplace. And in reports, it does say that women are a lot less likely to talk about it. So maybe I'm a victim of that same, patriarchal.
But it's fantastic to be able to reflect back and think, yes, we can look back and think, okay, well, in moving forward, how can things be different? But I think we've all travelled that pathway where you sort of think, why didn't I speak up? Or, great, I've got a job. This is a job I enjoy. I'm going to keep it and don't talk about the M word. But it's society as well.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And your third insight?
So this third insight is related specifically to Black stories and the telling of Black stories. A lot of conversations that I've had recently have been I've been in a couple of different Black spaces with Black creatives, and a recurring story is how rarely, when you put it in perspective, Black people get to tell Black stories. I see Sue doing a sign off on that one. Because either they're okay, if all these stories are being told, maybe a fraction of them are Black stories, and then a fraction of those Black stories are being told by Black people. So you end up with a real kind of toxic, a real offensive presence of Black people telling their stories. And it starts from the bottom up. So I mean, it starts like in the realm of short films where I deal with primarily, but also feature films, Hollywood films, TV dramas, stuff you see online. And I was in a discussion the other day that Sue was also part of, where someone who works in TV, someone who works for a popular TV drama, they were talking about this character that they had in this drama that was supposed to be a Ghanaian woman. And it's only when it had gone past the writing stage, gone past the sign-off stage, got to the point where they were actually on set about to film this thing, which is, a substantial amount of time, that somebody on set realized that I think it was the makeup, somebody on set that realized that the person that was written to be this Ghanaian person had a Nigerian name. And there were some things about what the Ghanaian person was doing that just did not feel right. It didn't work. And I can't remember if she said that they kind of fixed it. But yeah, it's like, how do you get this far with this Black character and not have one person who could accurately chime in to present that character authentically? And that's the danger of it. That goes out, and you have just influenced however many tens of thousands, 500,000 people into thinking, okay, this is what this person represents. This is who the person is. This is how these people are, and how dangerous that could be if it was a higher stake situation. Steve McQueen came to the West Midlands the other day to film for his Small Acts series, which was on BBC One every Sunday for the last month.
He came was it Wolverhampton? He came.
It was Wolverhampton that he filmed it mostly, and he used a casting agency that's based in Birmingham also to get a lot of his extras. But when he came to film here, in terms of the crew, he lamented the fact that he could not find any Black crew. Not to say they didn't exist,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of Black crew in Birmingham and the West Midlands, but it's just to be part of that system where people can feed into like the bigger productions to feed into like these bigger machines. There's obvious that there's still this restricted access,
Yes. Yeah.
however you choose to describe that.
Yeah.
So I have no doubt that the same restricted access that Steve McQueen experienced is the same restricted access that keeps all the credits on any major show that has Black people in it or that should have Black people in it, that keeps the credit list mostly non-Black.
Gosh. Yes.
So it, and I had a conversation just today where someone mentioned like the media, how the media is used as a tool. The media is used as a passive tool, was their point, because it kind of conditions people, programs people, and it like just shows them what they want to see.
Yes.
Which is something that's definitely very valid. I think that if we had more control over our media tools, then it could be used as a tool for something better, for some upliftment, for some education, for some growth.
Yeah.
The same way that if Black people are sent to white schools and taught white history is very problematic. But if Black kids are sent to Black schools and taught their own history and their own, like, can reflect on their own identity, both are teaching, both are schools, but what you learn is substantially different, and the impact it has on you is substantially different. So how do we control our stories in a way that is not through a white gaze, not through a colonizing gaze or neo-colonizing gaze, that is told authentically in a way that we could see ourselves and be proud of ourselves, and and are able to, even if it's something that we see that we don't like, at least is authentically represented.
Yes.
In a way that can still lead to some growth. So yeah, that is the third thing that I've been reflecting on, media and, well, the Black life on screen.
Wonderful.
And the Black storytelling tools to get it on screen.
Wow. And you're I think you're in a fabulous position, because Caribbean cinema and being part of boards and developing your networks will help your experiences what you want to see. You can start enacting those or supporting change. And so I think, yeah, your insights, I mean, we all see it and you think, oh, this is not taught, or this is not taught in schools, or the importance of identity and who's teaching, whose eyes are we looking at the story through. And I think that's so important.
Yeah, there's nothing that I love more or that I enjoyed more when it was happening than putting on. I remember the first time because I was usually screening feature length, like classic films, but this one evening I filmed some contemporary Caribbean short films. So we have films from Antigua, from Haiti, from Jamaica, Trinidad, and a lot of them were stories that I myself was enthralled by. Going back to what I said, I just wanted other people to see them. But being in a cinema with people who probably had never seen a Trinidadian film in their life, or that had never seen like a Haitian film in their life. And these are not like, the old classics that everybody's seen, but these are like current stories, new stories that reflect our experience today in our dialect, in our language, with our people on screen, with our inside jokes, with our own dialect and phrases. To see the reaction to that and to hear people's reaction to that afterwards, it was exactly what you're saying. Having the space to show these authentic stories is very powerful. and you see how powerful it is when you hear the people's reactions. So I totally agree with you there.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Denyce, for sharing your insights with us. Very powerful.
Yeah.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah. Well, it is an honor that you're here, and you're here, part of something that we are doing. We are, by being here, you're supporting us.
Yes.
And sharing your story and your insights and how we see the world and our position in the world. We've spent so long here in this world, and on many aspects we're not even seen, we're not even recognized. And many of us have internalized that ourselves. So we struggle to see each other. And that's partly what Nakuona is about. No, Nakuona is called I See You. That's what it's about. We see each other. And you're coming here sharing your journey, your story is part of that. Is truly important. At first I was thinking, there was questions I was going to say, and then you were answering them, and because of the journey that you've been on. And I look, and one of the things that I've noticed, especially within film, exactly that. The stories of those on the other side of the ocean, the Atlantic, we're not necessarily hearing those stories. And so to know that you are part of that role, that the tool, the mechanisms to bridge those gaps. Yeah, because we need to hear those stories to remind ourselves. Just in the same way as Caribbean people, we need to hear what is going on in Africa to remind ourselves to stream and make those links. On reflection, I would say, I'm going to say this, Judith, my takeaway moment, there was so many things that you've said. I'm like, whoa, I could choose all of them. When you said pruning, I was like, wow, okay, I love that. And storytelling, in our own voice, telling our own stories from our own perspective and experience. That resonates with me, especially from what I do as well. Those are takeaway moments that I would say, you have brought today on this Zoom. But I think for me, the can-do mentality for girls, for all of us actually, but like you say, in particular girls, channeling the spirit towards that can-do mentality. In the same way, over a year ago, you had these ideas and you were like, and you're approaching them and you're doing them. And then the following year, look what happened. Even under a lockdown, they happened. We can do. Yeah, we can. It's quite easy to say, I can't.
Yes.
Gosh, how many times have I said, I can't do it. I don't know. All this kind of thing.
Yeah.
So the can do for me is my takeaway moment from what you've been saying. Judy?
Yes, well, my takeaway moment is the words break the mold. Don't be afraid to break the mold came to me when you're thinking about your nieces and even your own life or the expectations for you, being in a position to say, you know what, there should be, get rid of the mold. I am who I am, and I'm going to do what I want to do. I want to try. I'm going to, if I see it or dream it or think it, let me just do what I need to do. And if the time is right, it's going to happen. So I think break the mold, or don't be afraid to break the mold, stands out from what you've talked about today. And also the word connection jumped out, just about even, you're in another country, but we can still be connected. You're doing Caribbean film, you're based in the UK, but you've taken what you've learned and you've gone home to give a gift of something back to your home. And you mentioned Haiti, you've mentioned other Caribbean islands. So I think it just goes back to what we are. We're like serving each other. You know, you've got skills, you give to your community. You know, you give to your nieces, we've got skills. And I think if we have that mindset, there will always be a lasting connection wherever we are in the world. And I think that sums up part of our target, what we should be doing to connect with each other. And the seas or the waves shouldn't separate that, stop us from doing that. So it's inspiring. And I think you, to your nieces, you must be like, exciting auntie. You know, some other women might think, oh no, she's doing all these grandiose ideas, but it's inspiring. It's inspiring. You're treading paths where
I definitely hope so. My oldest niece, I've gotten her into, well, I say I've gotten her, but maybe it would have been her anyway, into watching films and dissecting films and thinking about how she would make it and thinking about characters and stories. So she's I know she's very much watching what I'm doing. The other two might be a bit too small, but they definitely get a whole lot of affirmation from me.
Yeah,
that's good.
Look at all the thinking that you're helping them to do through something fun. You're helping them to reflect, you're helping them to be critical, you're helping them to question, problem solve, all of these things through fun time with auntie. And that could grow into, like, you're doing something you love, but that could also grow into something that they love, but they're looking through different eyes. They don't just accept the norm and the traditions, but can say, well, what's behind that? When was that done? And start questioning, which is great.
Which is great. Adding to their life skills.
Yes.
You're imparting these, there's life skills. So wherever they go, whatever they do, like you, they're serving a good purpose, their role from whatever they're thinking, from their thought to when they open their mouth and their actions. And they can then take responsibility for those actions, those thoughts, those words, and connect with their authenticity, where they come, the authenticity, responsibility, who they come, because they're representing us. Each of us are representing each other some way in some aspect.
True.
So what you're doing is phenomenal. Absolutely. And we say, yes.
Nakuona.
Thank you.
Nakuona.
Nakuona.
Yeah. And so just before we go, as I'd said before, we're coming towards the end of what they would say 2020. So,
sorry, Stu, just to cut you, should we see if Elaine has any thoughts?
Yeah, sure. Elaine, can you hear us, Elaine?
I know that she's listening,
but okay.
Great. Yes, Elaine.
Yeah, I think Denyce has brought a lot of points that I agree with. And, while she was talking, I was saying, oh, yes, and what I've gathered, the takeaway moment, with us sharing, I can imagine myself taking up on certain points, because seeing, hearing, sharing, and it gives you an idea of how we can benefit from experiences that others want to share with us.
Yes.
And as well as that, you're sitting there listening and you're thinking, oh, well, that would work in my way of thinking or my way of presenting things. I might not be sort of in the position as Denyce is, but I can still contribute. I can still put my little bit in that would put us all together on a certain path.
Yes. Yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you, Elaine. Yeah, I think it's true.
Thank you, Elaine.
Yeah, Elaine was one of the nominees at the event, the Nakuona event as well. Yeah, so she was there. Yeah.
It's because you can't see her.
It's because you can't see her.
Elaine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It just shows a figure at the top here, but it doesn't show,
okay, well, that means that I know you and I see you. So Nakuona to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you can sort of imagine what I look like.
We'll point it out, Elaine, when we look at the pictures.
Yeah.
She'll remember. Yeah.
Thank you, Elaine.
Thank
A
you.
lot of things are going through my head, as to how we can share experiences, share ideas that would benefit us as Black women.
Yeah. Wow, that's great.
I do remember you, Elaine. Your face
I had a
has come back to
red
me.
suit on,
Yeah.
and I can remember your ginger hair.
Oh,
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
oh, that's
Yeah,
nice.
but
Thank
I can see where this is going. It excites me.
Mm.
As one of the older generation, I want to sort of promote our Blackness.
Yes. Yes, that's important. So important.
I really appreciate this conversation,
Mhm.
Judith and Sue, as usual. It's good to kind of get thoughts out of your head sometimes also and discuss it with similar people.
Mm-hmm. So again, those thoughts on, as I'd said, what positive memories or experiences will you be taking with you from 2020 into 2021 life sphere? But also, what will you be leaving behind? Mm.
That's a very good question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think the uncertainty of 2020 kind of leads me to I think I've always had it, but especially now I feel more like taking leaps, like taking leaps, even if they might be kind of risky. Everything in 2020 has been risky.
Yes.
And things like I said, it's about balance. Things would always balance themselves out. So I'm thinking ahead to where I'm gonna be. I initially planned to just run back to Birmingham as soon as it was safe. But that I don't know when that's gonna happen. So I've actually begun to not restrict myself to any one place, but see, okay, what can I be doing in the interim? I feel like if a lot of the work that I am doing or want to do is outside of my home, with my home as a base. So I think 2021 is definitely going to be a year of exploring, exploring, when everything falls, just exploring, and seeing like where I could, where it might be fertile for planting and for growing. What I would be leaving behind. This is something that I said I would leave behind in 2019, but it's still like dragging, and that is me saying yes to everything. I think I have to be a bit more selective in terms of how much I could stretch myself, because then what happens is that I deviate from what I want to do, and I end up doing a lot of what other people want to do. So I feel like I need a bit more of a
Focus.
I need to focus on my focus. I need to focus on my own path and my own journey, instead of trying to accompany people. Well, I do want to accompany people on theirs, but not at my expense.
Yeah, it's true. Because if you're not clear, it's why do anything else for anybody if you're not clear about your own?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And you do it with a bad mind too. If you're helping somebody, do it with a bad mind.
Yes.
It's as you say, pruning. You need to
The
prune.
pruning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Pruning.
Exactly.
you can grow blossom.
Yeah.
You know, you need to blossom. You need to
Mm.
prune to get good blossoms.
That's
Mhm.
true. Yes, it's
Yeah.
true.
That is right.
Yeah.
That is right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right. Wow, that's been really inspiring, Denyce, to hear
Mhm.
about what's going on. So what I like to find proverbs. So I found a Somalian one which says, "Be a mountain or lean on one."
Mm. That's lovely.
So
Yeah.
just food for thought.
Love that.
You know, sometimes we have these aspirations: be a mountain or lean on one, and we
Mhm.
lean on each other. We need to lean on each other. And you never know, you know, someone's leaning on us, they may see us as a mountain. So
Mhm.
I think that's what we want. Looking forward.
Mm.
That's great.
That's lovely.
I love
Thank
that.
you.
I love that. Yeah. That's your take. That's our takeaway from you, Judith.
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay. So finally, it just comes to we're coming to the close of this, and once again, thank you, for saying yes for the Nakuona event and also for the catch up. Elaine, thank you as well for being here
Welcome.
too. Yeah. And it's just that we look forward to seeing everyone in 2021, Almighty willing. And whatever you're doing, just keep safe and well. And remember, we all have purpose.
Yes.
We all have, something to do. Yeah. And just finding that and see each other. See yourself first and see each other. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, as usual, this is productive.
Mm.
I see it as productive.
Mhm. Thank you. Thank you, Elaine.
Right.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you for this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, enjoy your December with the beach. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Oh
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I
Oh, nice.
definitely will.